The first story is as follows. I work at a place that does nighttime events during the weekends where we sell beer and have food. Not a restaurant, all outdoor. We are family friendly, and due to the type of licensing we have, we are only allowed to sell beer and no other alcohol. At the time, my job was to walk around to make sure that nobody was sneaking in outside drinks, as we will occasionally get secret shoppers making sure that we are following codes. One night, while making my rounds, I spotted a group with clear plastic cups and a bottle of wine which we don't serve. I politely informed them that they need to dump their cups and put the bottle away, and I will not make them leave as long as I don't see it again, to which they responded by saying that the bartender sold them the bottle of wine. I informed them that this would not happen because if wine were to be sold, we would cease to be family friendly and not be able to allow children to come and be part of our neighborhood events. After I say this, they admit that they brought it and that they are good friends with the owner, and he said it was okay to do. They've done it before, and that I can ask any worker that was around that they were allowed. I kind of realized that they thought I was just another patron because we don't have any uniforms or name tags. So I tell them that I am an employee and have been given the authority to kick people who aren't compliant with our rules out and hand them a ban as well, and that I was going to get their friend, the owner, over to explain further if they misunderstood. They made me annoyed because they tried to get away with it and possibly get us shut down, so I dropped the leniency and had them leave. The next day, I was on shift in the morning for my normal duties when one of the group members arrives. He sees me working and rudely asks for my manager and tells me that he's going to get his ban lifted. So I am a manager but of my different section of the business, but I still have some authority over these matters, and I tell him so. He drops his smirk and says he'd like to talk to the owner, then so I suggest that he call him since they are such close friends. He stormed off in a huff and has not returned since. The next story is titled, If I Don't Cut the Line, You Won't Eat. I just received the forms for this year's food festival, and I was reminded of what happened last year. After the first quarantine, the mayor in my city decided to organize a food festival in August because it was a success. It has become an annual event. I've taken part on both of them and planning to take part this year also. While most participants go with tried and true handheld to a degree recipes, I use it to try new things that maybe update my menu. Anyway, to the story. As a crew, we had the experience of the previous year of what about to expect. I had gone with one tweak of a standing recipe. I had pulled pork sandwiches and one new one. The new one was a sandwich with smoked sausages, grilled onions, peppers, and eggplants, and a feta cheese sauce. Since the opening hours for the festival were 11 to 11 p.m., we planned on having a 3-man crew, 2 cooks and apprentice, on site with enough food to cover the rush hour of lunch and restock when the crew changed at 5 p.m. If they needed anything, they would give us a call and we would bring it from the shop. We were about 500 yards away. That fateful August day, we received a call from the crew around 1 p.m. that they were running low on vegetables and cheese sauce. Apparently, a cruise ship had anchored outside of the city's port and had debarked most of the passengers from 12 hours in the city, and most of them hit the food festival. So I grab a portable fridge loaded with veg and sauce and head to the stand. Having a pass, I move fast through the entrance, one entrance and one official exit for both staff and visitors, but I catch some glares as I stepped inside the food court. I noticed that almost every stand had a big line in front of them. As I move past their line to reach the stand's door, I hear people shouting, "Hey, where are you going?" and "Get back in line." I'm almost at the door when someone grabs my shoulder, which for various reasons connected to my past is not a good move. I turn around to see a gray-headed older man, dressed in classic tourist attire, light yellow shirt, khaki shorts, white socks, and sandals and a hat. Still holding my shoulder, "You can't cut the line like this, people are waiting." "First, remove your hand. Second, I need to cut the line." "No, you need to go back in line." At that point, one of my cooks is almost hanging over their counter, waiting for the ingredients, and I'm starting to lose my temper, but I give another try. "I need to go in there." Now red in the face and shouting, "No, you need to get back in line and wait for your food. Young people these days." Well, that was it for trying. Time for my inner Neanderthal. Forcibly removing his hand from my shoulder, "Me not cut line, you no eat, gege?" He looked at me shocked when finally my cook shouted, "Hey boss, can I have the stuff now?" I handed him the fridge and told him not to sell to that guy. Cook's reply, "I know better than to field wild animals." The next story is as follows. This happened to me a while ago at volleyball training school that I work at part-time. My dad co-owns the place with 4 other people, 2 of which are ex-pro volleyball players from Russia. At the school, we were having different shirt colors for the student based on age range, green, blue, white, and a black shirt for staff. All of these have a giant logo of the school plastered on the front of it. Since I play soccer and have school to focus on, I only work 3 part-time. When I'm there, I do things like update roosters, take payments, translate for people in Spanish, first language, and things of that nature. Now, because I like photography and my pictures are pretty decent, my dad pays me extra than my usual salary to take pictures for their website and to help them with logos and color schemes for game uniforms, different from practice uniforms. Photoshop stuff, relatively easy. Anyway, I walked in one Thursday afternoon, and after completing some paperwork and finalizing some payments, I went out to the staff room office to take pictures of the class in action. We teach grade levels 8 to 12. Today was a class of 8 to 9 graders. I had my uniform on because it was a bit chilly inside. I didn't bother taking my jacket off. I thought that as long as I kept it unzipped so people could see the logo on the shirt, I would be fine. That was a mistake. I stood off to the side of the court, set my camera shutter speed, checked to make sure the flash was off, don't want to mess up the students, and started snapping pictures. It was at this point that one girl's father came in to pick up his daughter. I should mention that normally the girl's mother picks her up, so he didn't know the staff very well. There was still 5-10 minutes left of class, so he made his way over to the rows of chairs lining the walls of the gym. Until he saw me, a punk high schooler, 11th grade at the time, taking pictures of his poor freshman daughter and her classmates that I can use for my own enjoyment in the privacy of my bedroom. He immediately got up from his seat and stormed up to me. He demanded to know what I was doing taking pictures of his daughter and threatened to destroy my camera if I didn't give him the SD card that second. I was so shocked at the sudden confrontation that I couldn't think of anything to say, so I simply grabbed the side of my jacket and opened it a little so the logo on my shirt became visible. The look on his face when he saw the staff uniform I had on was one of absolute horror and shame. He mumbled a half-assessed apology and walked back to the seating area. Now every time he walks in, he never speaks to me. Even when the bill for the classes is due to be paid, he either waits until he's sure I'm not around or he gets his wife to do it. He's actually a nice guy from what my dad tells me. He's just ashamed. The next story is as follows. I work at a popular thrift store in Canada. When I was on mat leave with my little one, I had to go into my store to buy some more baby clothing as he was just getting way too big for his younger clothing. I was browsing some of the household aisles when I hear a smash at the other end. I looked at my watch and realized that most of the employees who would deal with this problem were on lunch. So the policy is if something glass breaks, one's employee would stand at the break point to stop customers from stepping on it, and another would go get a broom to clean the mess. As no one was around, so I suddenly, hey, I'm not in any hurry and the baby's sleeping in the cart, so I stood there and my mother-in-law, who was with me at the time, went to tell Cash about the break. Most customers were my regulars who knew I worked there and just had a baby. Some of them even stood there out of the glass to gush about how cute my little man is. Then this one lady who looked like a freaking Karen comes near. "Excuse me, ma'am, I'll have to ask you to go down to the other aisle and come back to this one since the mess is clean up." She scoffed at me, looked me up and down. "You're not the boss of me, why are you telling me to do? You don't even work here," and started walking on the glass. To be fair, the clothing policy at the time was all black and I was wearing bright colors and a long flowing skirt, so I calmly said to the lady, "Please stop walking, ma'am, this glass could hurt you, and yes, I do work here. I'm just on leave with my baby." I motioned to him. "What glass? There's nothing on this floor," she said as she stopped to look on the shelves. She never even looked down. I was 23 at that point, 24. Now she went to walk away, and at that moment, this lady, if I can even call her that, freaking slipped on the glass. I asked her if she was okay, and she screamed, "Why didn't you warn me there's glass? I'll have you fired." "I did warn you," I said as the supervisor and my mother-in-law showed up. The supervisor was the only one available to clean the mess, and she's one of the best ones there. Luckily, the lady only got a small scratch on her hand from the glass. "I want her fired. Where is her manager?" Oh, so now she believes me, I thought. As I explained to what happened, the lady kept trying to butt in, but the supervisor kept holding one finger up to silence her. Another customer chimed in and said I was telling the truth and that I did warn her about the glass. The lady glares at me. "She's lying. When wanted me to get hurt, that's why she didn't tell me about the glass." It was bright freaking green. You can't even miss it like you could clear glass. The supervisor sent me off and she dealt with the situation and told me I could go to the break room to hang out with the other employees. So from there I thanked her and went to the break room where my coworkers fussed over the baby and got to take turns holding him as I rested and told them what happened. I don't know what happened to the lady, but I was given a $20 gift card as a thanks for going above and beyond and doing my job even when I was off. Actually, it paid for most of my items after my discount. The next story is titled Beggars Can't Choosers. Literally. The other day I was outside my work, office block in the city center, on my smoke break talking with my workmates. It's quite a nice day, so we're all enjoying the weather, no coats or jacket on, and out work passes on lanyards around our necks quite obviously. Now bearing in mind that this is a city center, there's not too much through traffic, pedestrian or otherwise. There is a large park by our office where a fair amount of homeless people gather to drink, etc., but not much else around. It's pretty obvious where we are standing that we work for the office building. It's also not a public building. You have to have a pass to get past the door, and there's no real need why anyone who doesn't work in this building would be standing outside it, although where we stand is technically public land. A homeless-seeming guy comes over and asks for any spare change. We didn't have any cash and told him that. He then asked if we could spare a smoke. All my friends do the obligatory part down and excuses of last cigarette, etc. I feel kind of bad for the guy as he was polite upon asking, and there really isn't anything worse than not having a smoke when you're craving one, so offered him mine. I passed the guy the whole pack to take a cigarette from, but kept a keen eye on him as he did look a bit flighty, and I didn't really want him running off with basically a fresh pack of smokes. The guy looked at the package, pulled a disgusted face, and started bitching and moaning about the brand of tobacco to me. Could you not afford anything better? He asks. It's not a cheap brand. My friend and I exchanged a look of, is this guy serious? And I shrugged and told him, I like what I like, I guess. He then asked me if I had any other cigarettes he could have instead. I was baffled. I'm not some sort of cigarette vending machine. I laughed and said, no, sorry, that's all I have. If you don't want them, I'm sure you can ask someone else. He mumbled something I didn't really hear and took 2 cigarettes out the box. Cheeky, but whatever. He lit one of the cigarettes and then jumped up from where he was sitting on the wall and spluttered and screamed, what the fuck, they're menthol. And threw the box at me yelling, what the fuck, menthol, why don't you just get a job? I pointed to my lanyard and said, what? I literally work right here. And with that he walked off still smoking my cigarettes, shouting, whatever, just get a job, you freak, get a job, leaving me to pick up the box and stare after him in complete shock. Later, my friend said he obviously wasn't aware beggars literally can't be choosers. The next story is as follows. So years ago, I got a pretty sweet gig working as security guard, shift supervisor, actually important, a building downtown. It was a mixed building, so we had a food court, retail stores on 2 levels, as well as 5 office towers. When I first started, one of the things all the guards are taught is to treat everyone they deal with respectfully. The building did have a lot of transients and homeless people wander through, but we prided ourselves on being courteous and polite to everyone. Well, one lazy Sunday morning, I got a frantic call from our building operator, a guy who watches all the security cameras, telling me I need to get to a specific bank of chairs on the 2nd floor. He's panicking and I don't know what he's saying other than one of my guards' names. I go rushing over, worried that this guard, who's a bit of a loudmouth bully, might be in a fight or something. Oh boy, do I wish that was the case. When I get there, the guard is berating an older gentleman who is seated in one of the chairs. Guy has a pile of papers and a coffee on the table in front of him and is pretty shabbily dressed. A pair of jeans, dirty running shoes, a faded and stretched out t-shirt, and a leather jacket that is more scuffed than leather at this point. There's a ratty laptop bag on the floor leaning against the table. The guard is darn near purple in the face, screaming at this guy to get out, pointing wildly and yelling obscenities about how we don't allow pieces of garbage to be here. I walked up, tell guard to cool his heels, hey guard, let's all just take a breath, what's going on here? And then I greet gentleman in the chair and ask what seems to be the problem. The second gentleman gets 2 words out, guard lights up on a tangent about how this homeless drug addict is loitering and needs to leave but won't get up. I shush him and try talking to gentleman again, and this time he got out 4 words before the guard interrupts again, and this time starts threatening to literally flip the chair forward to toss gentleman onto the floor. I finally have enough with a guard and tell him to go to the office and cool off, and that I will deal with gentlemen. Guard begrudgingly leaves, and I apologize to gentleman about the guard's overreaction. Basically says I appreciate it. I work in X tower on X floor and forgot my keys. I was waiting until my assistant arrives and can let me in. I automatically offer to let gentlemen into his office. We do it all the time and we have specific protocols for it. And he accepts, so away we go to the elevator. We reach his floor and then doors open, which is when I realize where I am. Every single night we patrol every single office space of every single tower, except for one. On one floor, the entire space is occupied by a legal firm that is worth multi-millions, and we aren't allowed in the office. Ever. Yep, I'm standing on that floor. Gentleman steps into the floor lobby, and I have to excuse myself to go and get the keys for his office. We weren't allowed to copy a carry of it, so I can let him in, and he just nods. I race down to the building operations room, snag the key, and race back as fast as I can. When I get back to the floor, I open the office door and gentleman invites me in as he goes to shut off the alarm. I then have to awkwardly ask him for his ID and to see his office so I can verify he's allowed to be there. He chuckles and obliges me. He then tells me that he's the freaking owner of the legal firm, thanks me for letting him in, and I leave. About 20 minutes later, the president of our security company arrives on site with 2 other people, and guard who blew a gasket is escorted off site. Fired. As soon as I left the lawyer, he called the manager of the building at home to have words, and manager then called security company who came down personally. I got a nice compliment for how I handled things, and I learned why we had the rule of treating everybody with respect.